Now back to what I was talking. I think that the Lakers right now are there's a misery of trouble. Of course, losing the past 5. Well, no, excuse me. Just losing every game. They cannot get in rhythm. This team, at one point, Christmas Day, beat Golden State Warriors. Were the 4th seed in the West. Now in turmoil. 30-35 record. What has happened to this team? I'll give you some answers. Right now, their defensive rating, they're 29th in the whole conference, not even conference, the whole NBA. Before the All-Star break, they were 10th defensively. That's just called effort, ladies and gentlemen. They have lost that effort to play ball. They no longer want to play that defense. Why? Well, of course, after all the trade rumors, who wouldn't? Unfortunately, though, that's life. You have to combat it, though. And this young Laker roster do not look up to LeBron anymore. Yesterday against Denver, you had Rajon Rondo sit by himself. You had other Lakers players laughing at LeBron, joking around, like literally when he made mistakes, you could see them start laughing. Do they even have respect for him? This is a team full of problems, starting up from the very top. Rob Pelinka, Magic Johnson have to do something this offseason to get this team back on track. They want to ever get back into the playoffs, not even championships, just into the playoffs. Because right now, they don't look like a playoff team, and nor should they earn it. On top of all of that, offensively, they have been a laughingstock as well. The 3-point percentage, 3rd worst in the NBA. Free throw percentage, worse in the NBA. I mean, you just cannot, how are you going to win games? You just can't. And yesterday, you could clearly tell the difference between Denver and LeBron where they're at. Well, not even LeBron, the Lakers/LeBron. Denver is a team playing with effort every play. They're there for each other, and that showed with the scoreboard. The Lakers did make a late comeback, but you could just tell that's just the losing state. They didn't want to lose, though they weren't there together. And in the 4th quarter, the Denver Nuggets showed that to the Lakers. Now, let me talk about Boston. Boston, ever since the All-Star break, wasn't that huge losing game streak. They have been losing games left and right. Then, when they faced Washington, that's what I said last week. I said on this show last Thursday that Boston would win that game because Boston has had their number, and they do not like each other. Their series rivalry has been stupendous. They've faced each other in playoff series, regular season when the Wizards were black and white, when John Wall was healthy. They had the whole crew there. Oh, they have some memories. Semi-conference round, semis. Boston versus Wizards. Oh, they both remember. And Boston came out on top that year. Now, ever since the Wizards game, I knew most likely that they would lose the following. Because that was a game pure of emotion. And when you play with emotion, you tend to win those games when you're on a losing streak. Now, I believe that plane ride from Boston all the way to California was a great time to vent out any misconceptions, feelings toward each other as players, coaching, GM. Because since they arrived at Golden State, they have proved it. Golden State and Sacramento, they both won. And showed that they can hang with the best. Against Golden State, they beat them by 33. To beat the Golden State Warriors by 33, the defending champions, their home court, worst home loss ever on the Steve Kerr era, that says something. And then Sacramento Kings, of course, winning by 2 by a Gordon Hayward fadeaway just made it even better. Now, I think this is a time when Boston will rack up some wins, start getting on that win streaks, start making a change in culture, because right now they have changed the direction of their season. It is not too late because they can still get that third seed in the East. And that would be best for them because, A, they would have at least one first-round home series and not face Milwaukee till later in the season because Milwaukee has proven that they can beat them. Don't forget last year in the playoffs, they did go 7-game series that first round for no reason. They know how to face each other up. And last year it took the home court advantage to win that series. This year might be the same. And that will be Milwaukee's win then. So Boston has to learn how to get team chemistry because the only way they'll have a chance of facing against that team and making it work. And I think for that to happen, this is the perfect time to get into that rhythm, into that flow, and build that habit. So by the time that they face them in the playoffs, they are ready and have it going. That's all I have to say between these two teams right now. I'm going to go on a short break. Thanks for listening. Be back in a minute. Hello, everyone. We are back and live. Let's get started back with this show, shall we? Now, the team that I want to talk about that I think in the Western Conference, you let this team start getting hot. You start letting this team get in flow in action. They will show you in the playoffs what's up. That team I'm talking about today is none other than the Utah Jazz. Why am I keep on talking about Utah Jazz? It feels like every week I talk about them. If you've been listening to this podcast a little bit. Reason being, because I think this is the most underrated assembled team in a very, very long time. Not even the Denver Nuggets. Because they built a lot of their players through the draft. Utah Jazz? It's quite an interesting story. Yes, through the draft as well. Though they have a few undrafted players like Joe Ingles where he really came out of nowhere. And he is a solid player. Now, let me get into these Utah Jazz a little bit. Why, if I were anybody in the Western Conference, except for Golden State, if I had to face them in the first round series, even the semis, why I will not take them lightly. Ever since the All-Star break, ever since they have won all their games except 2. Yes, even one against the Pelicans, they lost, but by 3. So it was close. I don't know what happened there. Some teams just have a few slip-ups. The Utah, the 2 games that they lost, at least the first one that I witnessed too, this was after the All-Star break. They lost Oklahoma City when they went to overtime, and Paul George nailed that floater. The beautiful floater, let me tell you about Paul George. Unfortunately, Utah was not prepared that day. It's just as simple as that. They had several opportunities, Utah, to close out the game. Several shots that could have gone in, that should have gone in, and just will not. Donovan Mitchell missed a lot of shots. I remember that was like, where's Donovan Mitchell? Where's the man that I know performs? Because he is not no scrub. There's a reason why he got the ESPY award last year and why he wore that he should be the Rookie of the Year last year shirt too. I'll get from Adidas, competing against Ben Simmons. Donovan Mitchell against Milwaukee. Milwaukee Bucks, yes, beat them by 4. And he got 46, a career high. This is a team that's definitely on the upward scale. They have won in total since the All-Star break. If I'm not mistaken, give me 1 second. 2. They've only lost 2 out of 7, so they've won 5 out of their last 7 games. And both games they've lost has been by single digits, by 1 possession games. So that's how close it is right now with them. They are right now competing for a good playoff spot. They're getting back all their players healthy, specifically the guard position. Because if you haven't seen, in the middle of the season, it was just Donovan Mitchell healthy. You had no Ricky Rubio, no Kyle Korver, no Grayson Allen, no Thabo Sefolosha, all of them injured. Now they're finally getting all of them back. And good timing, too, because this is when you got to make that playoff push to make it in good seeding. If I were to see Utah and Oklahoma City series again, oh, man, that would be a thriller. Don't forget last year. Took 6 games, and even Donovan Mitchell said, quote, Game 6, before even game started, Game 5, he said, quote, we will beat you Game 6. Said it and spoke it to existence, literally. This team makes me happy. to see them play because they play as a team basketball. They all play for each other and they try to improve each other as the season goes along. Tomorrow they face Memphis and I had them winning, hands down. I don't know by how much, but I know that Utah will beat them. Now, let's go with a different team that's caught my eye a little bit because they have kind of gone under the radar. The team that I'm talking about, I even saw this yesterday, just like randomly reading some news reports about different NBA teams. I was just like, what? This team? Yes, Detroit Pistons. They've been 6-1 since the All-Star break, only losing to San Antonio, Now, Detroit, the teams I've beaten since the All-Star break has been Miami, Atlanta, Indiana, Cleveland, Toronto, and Minnesota. The big two I'm looking at is Indiana and Toronto, who would potentially be their first round series. And they have beaten both of them. So that is something to look out for because right now in the current playoff seeding, because they are 6 right now, they would go against Indiana, and they have beaten them. How does this resurgence happen? Well, don't forget they do have the Toronto's coach from last year who also won Coach of the Year in Dwayne Casey. Unfortunately, because they could not beat LeBron in the Eastern Conference and surpass him in the playoffs, unfortunately had to go. Such a great coach, regular season coach at least, because it has proven in the playoffs he is not unfortunately the man. At least he has not proven that yet. Yes, he does have one Eastern Conference Finals on his resume, though unfortunately he has never taken them to the NBA Finals, and his playoff record is below 500. That's definitely not a good look for Dwayne Casey. This year, hopefully, he can perhaps change that, though with this current roster and what team matchups that he could potentially face in the first round, it might not be so, but you never know. The Detroit Pistons have still a great team overall. They have Reggie Jackson, who did play with Oklahoma City with Russell Westbrook, so he does have that experience. You have Blake Griffin, who might not be what he used to be, but he's starting to shoot the three more. He can make still some spectacular dunks, and he's still big. You have Andre Drummond, who's your dominant center, can get some rebounds in this league. That's how you have to do it. You have to power with the bigs, get through, make every team go physical on you. That's how Detroit gets these wins. They got to go physical. Start making more threes. And they have Luke Kennard, their what I'm going to call unnoticed sophomore from last year rookie, who has made some pretty good games. He has had average, if I'm not mistaken, over 10 points per game. He is a great rookie last year. And this year, he's just proven again that he can at least consistently make some points from Duke. So do not underestimate this guy either. It's the reason why he was picked with a lottery pick last year. I'm just checking out the stats right now. Okay, about 10 points per game is 9.7. His field goal percentage is 45, almost 44.6, and his 3-point exact. That's what I thought is over 40%. Yeah, no, this kid can definitely make some points happen. Definitely a great off the bench player, off the bench unit. And definitely needed for this playoff push for Detroit. Now, that's all I got to say right now. I'm gonna put on the music. And I'll see you guys in a bit.
Yondo music.
Hello, everyone. We are back. Now let's get started back with this thing again. Let's get, shall we? Yes. So, the team that I want to talk about right now is the Houston Rockets. Why? Because you haven't noticed in the standings recently, they've been kind of moving up. They went from all the way being out from the playoffs to now being third in the Western Conference. Yes, I just said third. How did they get to third place? Seems like yesterday they were just the fifth and sixth seed and now quietly got into the third spot. Because of the win-loss tiebreakers, Houston owns the third spot right now in the Western Conference. They've been on a 6-game win streak. They have beaten teams in that win streak. Golden State, Toronto Raptors, Boston, Miami, Charlotte, and Atlanta Hawks. Their only loss since the All-Star break has been one, and that has been to the LA Lakers. The LA Lakers, their only win besides the Pelicans one. Now, how did Houston get here? Well, for starters, they've gotten back most of their healthy players again. They got back Clint Capella, their big man, desperately needed. So if they want to make a deep playoff run, they need him. And specifically with the seeding, a good chance with them having to face an example like a Utah Jazz or a Portland Trailblazer, or heck, even Oklahoma City now. And I'll explain later how that could be possible, why they're going to need the big man back. Because all three of those teams have a big man. And in my opinion, the only one that's has weaker than the other two is Portland with Jusuf Nurkic. Last year, Jusuf Nurkic got exposed in the playoffs. Yes, exposed. Could not defend the pick and roll. Could not defend the big man. Anthony Davis abused Jusuf Nurkic, and that's how they won their playoff series, along with double teaming Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. So, with Houston on this rise up, I wouldn't be shocked one bit if Houston remains at the third seed, because I'm checking out their schedule. They have a couple of tough games here and there, but they're going to be facing teams like the Mavericks, Phoenix Suns, Minnesota, in the next 3 out of 6 games. You're facing teams who are not exactly trying to win, if you understand what I'm saying. Yes, they're going to face the tough teams like Philadelphia, a Golden State Warriors, but tomorrow, I'll get to my predictions later, though I want to give you a little spoiler here. I think Houston wins, A, because they're at home, and B, because Philadelphia just lost to Chicago in a very degrading way. 2 times to win that game, and both times you epically could not make a basket shot. You couldn't even get something in. So, with that in mind, I believe the Houston Rockets, with the current schedule that I'm seeing the rest of the season, they could hold on to that third spot. They are facing some winning teams and playoff teams, and they're facing Sacramento near the end of the season twice that want to make that playoff push. Though, let's be realistic. Houston is a better team against Sacramento when they're all healthy. They're a better team than most of the teams they're playing, except perhaps Golden State and maybe even Denver Nuggets. And perhaps Milwaukee if you want to put that debate in there. But once everyone's healthy as an overall team, when they all are on rhythm, can make the three, you have James Harden making ISO plays, Chris Paul getting around 10 assists per game, you have big man Clint Capella getting those double rebounds, double-doubles with points as well, They're a team that I think are finally getting back into their healthy rhythm. I think they will be able to hold on to that first round home playoff series as a third seed. Perhaps even move up into second, because Denver has been losing some games. If I'm not mistaken right now, after the win last night, they finally are equal 6-6 for the last 12 games. They have dropped and won, they have won and lost games here and there. Because they're young and I think they're inexperienced coming to this part of the season, I think that's what's haunting them a little bit. Though with their veteran Paul Millsap, they've been able to rebound. So that's all I got to say about the Houston Rockets for right now. The next team I'm going to talk about, coincidentally, who was holding the third seed, and actually I want to make a little comparison here because everyone thinks that Paul George is having an MVP season, and don't get me wrong, I think he is having an MVP type season. Though with that MVP type season, you have to consider some things. Right now, the current record of the Oklahoma City Thunder, I'm going to check it out right now. I believe it was 39-25. Yes, 39-25. Last 2 years, the record has been 48-34. So that means that Oklahoma City will have to win 9 more games and lose 9 more games to be at that same record. I'm saying that look at the overall big picture here. Let's say Oklahoma City starts losing some games they're not supposed to. Perhaps some things go wrong here and there near the ending stretch of the season. Okay, I'm checking out some games against Oklahoma City here, and let me tell you, they're facing some tough teams up ahead. They're facing Portland tonight. They're facing the Clippers tomorrow. They're facing Utah on Monday. They're facing the Pacers on a Thursday next week. They're facing Golden State the following Saturday. That right there is 5 playoff teams. 5. Oklahoma City better be on their heels. Better find that way to win again. Because after losing practically to Timberwolves last night, which was not a good sign. Well, on Tuesday, which wasn't a good sign. Losing to San Antonio. Losing to Denver. Losing to Sacramento. Since the All-Star break, they have practically split their games. And actually, they've lost more. They have won 3 and lost 4 since the All-Star break. So they're not even a .500 team if you look at them since the All-Star break. And now they're going to have to go against 3 teams straight who want the playoff spots to improve. Portland, who wants their playoff spot. Right now, the current 4th and 5th seed matchup. I'll get later to who I think will win that game, my prediction. Then you have the current 4th seed against the Clippers. Oh, man, the 7th or 8th seed Clippers. Then you have Utah, the team who's finally getting back healthy with Donovan Mitchell. And they remember that you beat them by 1 point at their place. Not at their place, at your place, Oklahoma City. They remember. And now it's at their home court. Hey, you remember last year's playoff series. It went back and forth. So, future prediction, I think Utah does win that Monday night game. And with that in mind, now that I've given some outlook of the future of how Oklahoma City's season is looking like, I have a bit more feeling, a bit more of a comprehension. With their current record of 3-4, you would say that most likely, they'll split the rest of the games 9-9. What would that mean? They would exactly have the same record as last year, 48-34. No improvement in their regular season record. And yet everyone categorizes Paul George as the MVP. Should be MVP because most people that I've been hearing from lots of sports outlets has Giannis Antetokounmpo as the MVP. And I think that he should earn it. Because with the record speaks, man. And right now they have the best record, Milwaukee, in the whole NBA. And if I see Oklahoma City these next couple of games going back and forth with wins and losses, I won't be able to put Paul George on top of Giannis. At least for that to happen, he would at least have to get 50 win season. And that means that they would have to drastically change right now where they're at. Because being 3-4 since the All-Star break isn't exactly the way you want to represent. So that's my outlook on Oklahoma City right now. I want to go to my next team that I want to talk about, the Sacramento Kings. The only team who I feel like, realistically, from the Western Conference, if there was a team that was out that could get in, would be them. This team reminds me of Denver Nuggets, a lot of the Denver Nuggets last year. How Denver was that team outside trying so hard to get in there. And unfortunately, Denver just could not make it. The last game of the season against Minnesota just lose and just miss the playoffs. That hurt my soul still to this day because I liked that team. And I thought Denver would have given a much bigger run of money against Houston as well because Minnesota at that point, they were kind of banged up against Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler was kind of injured. You had the players just not as good as the beginning of the season because beginning of the season, Minnesota last year was a top 3 seed. Now back to Sacramento. Sacramento somewhat has a tough path ahead. These next 2 games are simple. They're going against the New York Knicks and the Wizards, 2 winnable games. Then they go against the Celtics again, now at their home court on Thursday, the following Thursday. And they just lost to them yesterday. So I don't know about Sacramento. That's without Kyrie too. So I'm going to have to go with the Celtics to win that game. Then they go against Philly the next day. I think it's another loss for the Sacramento Kings. So right there again, that's 2-2. This team has to build up some wins. Luckily, after they face those two Eastern Conference powerhouses, they're going to go with the Chicago Bulls, the Brooklyn Nets, the Mavericks, the Phoenix Suns, and then the Lakers, and the Mavericks, and then the Pelicans. 7 very winnable games. This team could potentially rack up 5 out of those 7 and can make that push for the playoffs. They would have to hope that the Clippers start losing some games. Because right now, as the Clippers are constructed and looking like per game, they look like they're going to at least hold out their position. In San Antonio, you know, when the season keeps on trucking along, they get better, and better. So I don't think San Antonio will either fall off either. So reality, it will have to be the Clippers to get out in order for Sacramento to get in, because, of course, the Clippers still have to face a few of their division foes, most likely Golden State and the Lakers still. Because I believe, after looking at the schedule, that Sacramento and the Clippers no longer face each other this season. So Sacramento cannot do any fast catching up of like being LA Clippers and getting the 1-game automatic advantage of going back into it. So they're going to have to just hope that some teams can beat the Clippers. This is my outlook of the Sacramento Kings. If I had to predict right now, will they make it? I'm going to have to say no, unfortunately. I think they just miss out. And this is a team that's hungry, unfortunately, because they're youth, and I don't think they don't have any veteran presence big enough to really propel them on top yet. I think this season, though, after just missing out, will help them, just like Denver, to make it next year, make it into the playoffs big time. Now, I'm going to talk about my predictions for today and tomorrow, who I think are going to win these games. Currently, not the best record in the world, I have to admit. I've been doing my counting. I'm right now 11-7. So not the best predictions out there, but I'm not losing either. So here is my predictions for today and tomorrow's games of the NBA. In total, it will be 11 games. So first matchup today is the Indiana Pacers versus the Milwaukee Bucks. You have the first seed against the third seed at Milwaukee's house. I'm going to go with Milwaukee to win this game, only because they're at home. Giannis is finally beginning to play more minutes again. You have him again getting back healthy. He's knocking down that 3, and trust me, the league is scared about that, because you have a big, dominant, 6'10" freak of nature who can propel to that with less than 2 steps, get to the hole, make that dunk. Make that 3 now? Oh, man. You're just asking for a recipe for disaster. And I don't think the Pacers, without Victor Oladipo, without their big all-star, superstar as well now, I don't think the Pacers can keep up with the Milwaukee Bucks, unfortunately. I think it'll be some of a close game, but I just think in the end stretch, I think Milwaukee will make that push to stand out from the crowd. Now, this is the big matchup tonight. The Oklahoma City Thunder versus the Portland Trailblazers. Only 2 games today, and this is the big one. You have the current 4th and 5th seed at Portland's home. Portland, the past few games, has beaten teams like the Boston Celtics. I know that. And Portland, as always, after the All-Star break, always has come out strong, always being teams that they have to beat to make the playoffs and get better seeding as well. Looking up right now their season in a nutshell, yes, they lost to Memphis recently and as well Toronto, but the Kawhi Leonard buzzer beater, which was pretty good on Kawhi's part. That was a pretty good shot, like on top of Damian Lillard's defense. He got him good there. Since the All-Star break, though, and before, when they blew out Golden State, Portland has been in. So before the All-Star break, the last game before the All-Star break, Golden State, they've been the Brooklyn Nets, they've been the 76ers, Cleveland Cavaliers, and Boston. Until the Raptors and this recent Memphis game, they had been on a pretty good win streak. Talking about right there, a 5-game win streak. They lost to the Raptors, beat Charlotte, and then lost to the Memphis Grizzlies. Because Mike Conley, something within him just woke him up and said, I'm not losing tonight, and scored a pretty good career, if I'm not mistaken, perhaps a career high. He just scored a lot of points. I know that. If I'm not mistaken, it is 40 points as well. Looking it up right now, yeah, 40 points by Mike Conley. He was out to prove something that last night. Tuesday night. Now, who do I think is going to win this game? I think because Oklahoma City just lost to Minnesota, I just have this weird feeling because Portland is at home and they are a great home team. If I'm not mistaken, a top 3 record at home amongst all NBA teams. I think that the Portland Trailblazers will pull this win and beat Oklahoma City. That will cause Oklahoma City to be the 5th seed. And as worse, the record since the All-Star break will be 3-5. And that will mean some desperate soul searching because the rest of the season for Oklahoma City will not be easy. Those are my predictions for today. Now, for tomorrow's games. The first 2 games of the night, at 6 p.m. One is the Dallas Mavericks versus Orlando Magic. The other, the Washington Wizards versus the Charlotte Hornets. Only because Orlando Magic has a home game there against the Mavericks, I'm going to go with the Magic. I hate to say that because I'm a Mavs fan. I want to see Luka win that game. Though, because the Mavericks want a better, unfortunately, lottery pick. Well, be in the lottery because we're not a top 5 draft pick this year. We lose our pick. And I will not deny it. RJ Barrett looks like a perfect candidate for a 3-point shooter that we desperately need to spread the ball so that next year when you have Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis, you have that third option to pass the ball and knock down that 3. He's also last night looking at the post, has the most points by a freshman at Duke with 696. First Duke will surpass how many points a freshman makes at Duke. That's some big noise. That's something to look into. So I think the Mavericks lose this game and the Orlando Magic win because Orlando also has a hunger of wanting to make the playoffs. They are right now the 9th seed. They need to keep on winning to have a chance of making it into the playoffs in the Eastern Conference Finals. Next is the Wizards versus Charlotte Hornets. I'm going to go with Charlotte to win this game just because the Wizards just beat the Mavericks, and I feel like Charlotte, by losing to Miami last night, they're going to be hungry. They're going to be like, we don't want back-to-back losses. We want to change this momentum. And I think Charlotte will do that tomorrow. They're at home. Well, not tomorrow, today. Yeah, tomorrow. They're at home, and I think that they'll be able to make that happen. So I'm going to go with Charlotte there. The Raptors versus Pelicans. I'm just going to go with the Raptors just because I think they're the better team. Anthony Davis not going to play as much. And that's it. Not going to talk much about it. Miami Heat versus Cleveland. Again, Miami. Cleveland's trying to get a very good pick in the draft. So Miami, I think this is, I wouldn't say giveaway, but a great opportunity to get better seeding position as well. Not seeding position, just get in the playoffs because right now they're the 8th to maintain that 8th spot. You have Detroit versus Chicago Bulls. I'm going with Detroit here. They have proven that they can win games. They're on right now a 3-game win streak. And I think the team is beginning to find out how to win games. So I'm going to go with Detroit. This is a big matchup for tomorrow. You have the Philadelphia 76ers against the Houston Rockets. I'm going to go with Houston here. I think on their 6-game win streak and Philadelphia's deflating loss from last night, I think it's just going to propel, and we're going to see that reflection tomorrow night. So I'm going to take Houston. Utah versus Memphis. I'm going to go with Utah. They're a team that wants to make the playoffs, playing team basketball. Not the prettiest team to watch because, unfortunately, they're more focused on defense, kind of like Memphis. Though Utah, once they start finding it offensively, they're a tough team to stop. So I'm going to go with Utah to win that game. Oklahoma City versus LA Clippers. I think after losing to Portland, I think Oklahoma City will bounce back here and beat the Clippers. Denver Nuggets versus the Warriors. I'm going to go with the Warriors. I think that since they've been losing a lot more games since the All-Star break, in my opinion, than the Denver Nuggets. Losing to Miami, losing to Orlando, now losing to Boston. I think that the Warriors feel like, and also Portland, I feel like the Warriors are going to be hungry for this game because they're going to have motivation to maintain that first seed in the Western Conference Finals. So I think the Warriors will win that game against the Denver Nuggets. Those are my predictions. Thanks for listening. I'm going to go on the music break, and I'll see you guys later.
Anxiety, anxiety, we love to feel anxiety. Give me an A. A. Give me an N. A. Give me an X. Give me an... Wait, what?